You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
There's a team that's in our hearts. We've got love that won't depart. We are always in the stands, 'cause we're super Dolphin fans. Football is mighty rough. Winning gets awful tough. We're rooting for the Dolphins. Our mighty, mighty Dolphins. We're rooting for the Dolphins. Our mighty, mighty Dolphins.
Hello, Miami Dolphin fans, and welcome to the Same Old Dolphins Show, part of the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network. I'm Josh Katzker. With me today and every day is my brother from the exact same mother, Aaron the Brain. Aaron, say hello to the people.
Hello to the people.
Okay, Brain, enough beating around the bush. Let's just get right down to it. It's do or die time for the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, 6-7, going to Houston to take on the Houston Texans. The Texans, 8-5. The Dolphins have never won a game in Houston. The Dolphins are 0-3 this season up against teams that are playoff teams. Although, I mean, you could maybe consider the Rams a playoff team, but the Rams, if the season ended today, would not be in the playoffs. It's 2 losses against Buffalo and a loss on the road at Green Bay. The Dolphins now have an opportunity to go into Houston, and with all of the resurgent talk, the talk that this is a team that is turning things around and that this is a team that can actually make something happen this year, they will once again have an opportunity against a tough opponent on the road to prove that they can not only beat a tough opponent, but can beat them on the road in maybe I would say a difficult environment. It is an indoor stadium, but they've never won a game in Houston, so I'll go ahead and call this a tough environment. It's still on the road in the NFL against the team that leads their division. So, Brain, it's once again for the Miami Dolphins, put up or shut up time. Are you really a team that can do this? Or are you the same old Dolphins?
Yeah, and I think this is game 1 of 4 of breaking narratives, of opportunities to break narratives. The Dolphins have had realistically 3 opportunities thus far this season, and they are 0 for 3 with the 2 games against Buffalo and the game against Green Bay. Any other game that the Dolphins have played this season, whether it's a game they lost, whether it's a game they won, if it's a game they lost and they would have ended up winning it, it still wouldn't have changed anything at this point. But now these 4 games are the games that matter. Not only are they the last 4 games of the season, which, you know, innately makes them more important, even though, like, technically in a vacuum, no one game is more important than any other one game, you know, as far as when it happens in the season. But this is the thing, right? This is where the Dolphins have fallen apart the last 2 seasons. And so here we are again, where granted, the Dolphins haven't put themselves in the position that they put themselves in the last 2 seasons, where, you know, if they were playing well down the stretch, they were actually playing for like a number 1 seed and, you know, being a legitimate championship contender. But they are in a position where I do believe, and, you know, it's not a given, but I do believe that if this team should win out, that they will end up making the playoffs. That is not a given, but I believe that that is so. So it's put up or shut up time. And as soon as you lose one, I think it doesn't matter what you do the following week. Because I think if this team does not win out, they, while not mathematically necessarily will be eliminated, I think for all intents and purposes, I don't think this team is going to get in at 9-8. I think they could. but I don't think it's going to happen. So
And
it really does feel like it is do or die time. Let's see what you got.
it really is do or die time for the Miami Dolphins. As they head into Houston, we're going to talk about this game on both sides of the ball for the Miami Dolphins. But before we do that, a reminder to you, if you have not done so already, smash that like button right now. Everybody who is watching us live on the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel, smash that like button right now. Take a moment real quick. Smash that like button. We appreciate it very much. If you're watching on the I Am a Miami Dolphin Fan Facebook page, smash that like button right now. Take a moment. Go ahead. Share this video. Put it onto your timeline for all your friends and family to see. We appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel, do that as well. And finally, make sure you're following us at Amplified to Rock, at Aaron the Brain, at Same Old Dolphins. And of course, I would be remiss if I also didn't mention that the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, which we are a part of, is nominated for not one, but 2 Sports Podcast Awards. We are nominated in the Best American Football Podcast category. We're also nominated in the Best Team Podcast category. So make sure you vote. We've got the links in the comments. Make sure everybody, you sign up, hit those links so that we can win those awards. We're up against some very stiff competition in those categories, including the Kelsey brothers in the Best American Football Podcast. We're up against Mina Kimes. We're up against Stu Gatz, Phil Simms. Tough competition, but it is an honor just to be nominated. And of course, I also want to make sure that we share this important word from our sponsor. If I can hit the correct button. The DolphinsTalk.com podcast network is sponsored by Caneswear. Caneswear is the place to go for officially licensed apparel for the Miami Dolphins, Miami Heat, the Hurricanes, Florida Panthers, and all of the professional and college teams in South Florida. Looking for the latest jersey, a birthday gift, or the newest hat to hit the market of your favorite South Florida team? Check out Caneswear for their overwhelming selection of sports apparel. Located at 2655 South University Drive, Davie, Florida, Caneswear has it all. Not in South Florida? No worries. Visit Caneswear.com to shop their inventory from the comfort of your home, and they'll ship it to you. International fans, too. Caneswear.com is the spot that Miami fans shop. That's Caneswear.com. Caneswear.com. Okay, Brain. Let's dive in. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball in this game, because I think this is an area where the Dolphins, I mean, if you're looking at this game as a Miami Dolphin fan, especially coming off of the way the team performed last week against the Jets, the biggest red flag is on the defensive side of the football. That's where alarm bells are going off, because the Houston offense is, I think, a lot stronger, or at least has big dynamite potential the same way that the Jets offenses does. Now, the Texans offensive line has been beat up, although they are getting help with the return of Kenyon Green back in this game on the offensive line, but they've struggled. But with a quarterback like CJ Stroud, wide receivers like Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and they had Stephon Diggs earlier in the season, but he got hurt. But they still have Dalton Schultz at tight end. They've got Joe Mixon at running back. This is a team with some weapons. It is not going to be a walk in the park for the Miami Dolphins. But the Miami Dolphins may just be set to get a huge lift on the defensive side of the ball, and that is with the potential return of Bradley Chubb to the lineup. Now, it's not a given that Chubb is going to come back. I believe they still have another 10 days. Like, they don't have to activate him, I don't think, until right before the San Francisco game next week, I think, is when they would have to activate him or shut him down for the year. But I think the big thing to take note of here is, to me, if the Dolphins don't start Bradley Chubb in this game, they have no intention of starting him or bringing him back at any time this season, because of the $10 million injury guarantee in his contract. And quite frankly, as you look at the games left on the schedule, this is a huge one. It's probably your toughest road game left of the season. And you've seen how bad your defense was last week. You need that lift. You need him back. And so to me, it seems like if the Dolphins don't bring him back this week, that suggests to me that they're just not going to, and they're going to just let him stay inactive and perhaps move on from him at the end of the season. Now, if he is still part of their long-term plans, well, then maybe you keep him along, you just protect him and you say, well, let's just fold this season anyway. But to me, I think if you're the Miami Dolphins and you have any hope of really contending, I mean, look, you didn't trade Calais Campbell. You've kept saying outwardly that we believe we're still in this. We believe that we're still in this. And to be fair, you've gone now you were 2-6, and you've now turned it around and you're back up to 6-7. So you've gone 4-1 in that stretch. So you are a quote unquote resurgent team. So if you have any intention of bringing him back, now's the time, isn't it?
Well, yeah, ideally, but you also have to, I mean, he's not a robot. We got to know, they have to monitor him at practice. Is he 100%? He has to monitor himself at practice. Am I 100%? If he's not ready to go, then he's not ready to go. I think there are decisions to be made with him long-term. One of the decisions might be to part ways with him and save a bunch of money post June 1st, but they could also restructure him and make a definitive decision to keep him around for at least one more season, and save a bunch of cap space by doing it. And so I think if he can prove to be healthy coming down the stretch and play well, or even if he's just ramping up and he looks like he's moving in the right direction, I think there's a strong case to be made for keeping him around for at least one season. So I don't think that you just say, well, we absolutely need Bradley Chubb to beat the Houston Texans, so we're going to throw him out there at 80%. And if you're Bradley Chubb, I don't think you go out there and you say, I have to absolutely play this game even though I'm not 100% because the team needs me to beat the Houston Texans. I'll say this. Would Bradley Chubb absolutely help the Miami Dolphins if he is anywhere near 100%? Absolutely. Is Bradley Chubb the reason that the Dolphins will win or lose against the Houston Texans? No, I don't believe that. And I think if you're going into this with the expectation that if Bradley Chubb plays, the Dolphins win, and if Bradley Chubb doesn't play, the Dolphins lose, then it's a house of cards anyway.
No. So, that's certainly not what I'm suggesting. I just think if you've got him, you want to bring him back, and this is a great opportunity to do it. And I would say that with the caveat of if he even plays in this game, he's probably only taking at best 10, 15 snaps. This is going to be a guy that you're going to put on a tight snap count, and you're not going to be running him out there constantly. But I think you want to have him back I mean, listen, this is a must-have game, and you want to have every weapon possible you want to have available. So if and all accounts sound like he's looked good at practice. He's been in good shape. He looks explosive. He looks like he's ready to come back. And we know, listen, he can be coming back from a serious injury. He had ACL, PCL, and MCL damage. He had significant surgery done to his knee. But the fact of the matter is, if he's just about back and you can get him and put him in that lineup and use him in some way, you need to bring him in. I mean, even if he's just coming in on third downs, any little bit helps, because we've seen all season long that this team just does not have an ability to get pressure on a quarterback with a 4-man rush. And maybe against this Texans offensive line, maybe that changes, but we've seen the Dolphins go up against beat up offensive lines earlier this season and struggle the same way. So that's all I'm saying, is that I would, if he's going to be available at all, I would like to see him out there and going for the Miami Dolphins.
And I'll just say one last thing and we'll move on from this. But just look at Jalen Phillips. Like, was the defense better for having Jalen Phillips out there? Yes. But did Jalen Phillips potentially injure himself because he came back too soon? I'm not saying definitively that's what happened. There's absolutely a part of that could be true. And so Bradley Chubb needs to protect himself. And as a team that's investing in Bradley Chubb and maybe investing in Bradley Chubb for another season, because it may be financially prudent to do so, they need to protect their investment in Bradley Chubb as well. So while somebody in the comments is saying, well, nobody's 100%, so you can play if you're not 100%. Not everybody is coming off of ACL, PCL, and MCL rehab either. So, there's a difference between guys being bumped and bruised and sore and tired and everything, and guys coming back from significant injuries and significant surgery. If Bradley Chubb is ready to go, I'm all for it. But I am never in the boat of rush a guy back off of significant surgery and rehab to win a game when you're 6-7.
Sure. And to address a question that we got in the chat from Kevin Alexander, what about letting him get to 100% for the possibility of the playoffs? Playoffs are still a long shot, but shouldn't the weapons be rested for then? And the thing is, Kevin, the Dolphins have opened his return to play window, which means that they have until next week to activate him or they lose him for the season. So because they opened that window, if they had waited to open the window, yeah, they could have kept him waiting for as long as they needed to, but they opened that window. So now they've got 3 weeks left to activate him. And I guess technically they could activate him and then make him inactive every day. They could do that. But then he's taking up a roster spot from somebody else.
Right.
So anyway, that's one side, but let's talk about the rest of the big picture on this defense, because Brain, Nico Collins is a threat, but I guess the one thing that you could say about the Texans is that where the Jets had Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, the Texans have Nico Collins, and then there's a much more significant drop-off before you get to Tank Dell, who's their next available weapon because of the injury to Stephon Diggs. So what is the approach that the Dolphins should take defensively to try to slow down the passing game of the Houston Texans?
I think it's easier because you don't have that second dynamic receiver, and Nico Collins is a really good receiver, but I don't think he's on the level of either Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams. That said, given the other weapons that they have, I think this is a simple situation where you just shade coverage over to his side. I think you basically try to take Nico Collins away in the passing game and you make other guys beat you, because look, can Tank Dell do some things and make some plays? Sure. But, he's not a guy that is, he's a guy that's got 543 yards receiving. Look at his last 5 games. He hasn't gone over 100 yards since the end of October. So it's, about a month and a half. So I say, let them force feed Tank Dell to try to beat you. There are other ways to beat guys slot guys to handle that. Do I think Dalton Schultz can be an issue? Yeah. Do I think Joe Mixon out of the backfield can be an issue? Sure. I don't think this Dolphins defense has enough guys to account for everybody on most good offenses. Look, this is a team that struggled to stop the Las Vegas Raiders a few weeks ago. So it's not like the Dolphins can sit here and be cocky about it. But I think what gives you the best chance of winning is take away the other team's best option. And then you rely on your front four to, hold serve in the running game, not get completely pushed around. And then I think you give yourself a chance. And then it comes down to third downs where this defense has been really dreadful, the last few weeks. And to be fair, this was a defense that largely for most of the season has actually been good at getting off the field on third down. It's just the last few weeks They just can't seem to get off the field on it, and it's kind of been compounded because a few times over the last couple of weeks we've seen this defense make big stops on third downs, and then it gets negated by a penalty, and then all of a sudden then they fold as the drive moves along. So the defense needs to play better. Bradley Chubb would certainly be a boost, but I think the secondary playing better, because the secondary issues were a major problem in that game against the Jets. The secondary playing more disciplined and having a good strategy to take away the big play, which Nico Collins will give you. I think that's a big key.
Do you put Jalen Ramsey and let him travel with Nico Collins?
No. I don't think you need to do that. I think it makes you more predictable defensively, and I think it makes you easier to scheme against once the opposing team knows that that's what you're doing. And I think if you're going to shade a safety over the top, then you don't need to have Jalen Ramsey travel with him. In fact, if you are putting a safety over the top of Nico Collins, I would almost rather have you shadow Tank Dell with Jalen Ramsey and say, hey, Tank Dell, we're going to put Jalen Ramsey in the slot against you and make you have to deal with size. And then, you're probably not going to do that all game. But then the fact that you can put Jalen Ramsey in the nickel and not know that, or in the slot and not know that he's coming on a blitz, that's a different wrinkle that we really haven't seen from this defense, because what we've seen from this defense is that when they do put Jalen Ramsey in the slot, he's generally coming on a blitz. So maybe they put Jalen Ramsey in the slot and they bring the blitz from somewhere else. Maybe it's Kader Kohu on the outside. I think I was listening to Mike's interview with Josh Moser the other day, and Mike made a good point about we got to bring pressure to get to CJ Stroud, but it doesn't have to be Jalen Ramsey. You could bring the pressure from somewhere else. So, just they got to be a little bit creative about it is my point.
Yes, that's what they're going to need to do. They're going to have to be creative about how they do it, and whether or not they're able to generate that pressure and make Stroud uncomfortable is, I think, going to be, to me, that's the key to the whole thing, is whether they can make Stroud uncomfortable and interrupt his tempo and his timing. And if they can do that, then they can set themselves up to hopefully make a few stops on defense. Brain, we're going to talk about defense, or about what the Dolphins need to do on offense in just a moment. But first, I want to tell you about the seltzer that is taking America by storm. It's Mellow THC seltzer. It comes in wild berry, grapefruit, strawberry, mango, and half, which is lemonade and iced tea. It is a mix of madness, genius, and a pinch of chaos to bring you the best sips in the universe. With 5 milligrams of THC in this drink, Mellow is revolutionizing the way you unwind. Each sip is designed to gently lift your spirits and ground your senses. Go to mellowseltzer.com for more information. That's MELO seltzer.com for more information on how and where to purchase. Get us fired up with some Mellow Seltzer, Brain. We need to hit up Mike for some of that Mellow Seltzer.
I don't know if fired up is necessarily how I'd feel. I think it would be kind of the opposite.
Fired up to have the Mellow Seltzer and mellow out. How about that?
Yeah, chill. Would be chill.
Yeah, we're just gonna chill. We're just gonna chill a little bit. Some good laid back Christmas vibes with some Mellow Seltzer. Brain, let's talk offense. The Dolphins' offense has stayed pretty consistent since Tua has returned to the lineup. They've been taking advantage of what teams are giving them, and it's clicking. It's not clicking the way that we got used to it clicking last year with big explosives, but it's clicking in that it's methodical and that it's efficient. And if I think this is a game, Brand, where the Dolphins are going to need to score, they're going to need to score a lot. So how does this Texans defense match up with this Dolphins offense?
So the weird thing is when you look statistically at the Houston Texans defense, they've actually been really efficient against the pass. But a lot of it just has to do with the opponents that they played. And particularly, the last month or so of the season. I mean, they're playing, Will Levis and Cooper Rush and Mac Jones. And, you have to go all the way back to October for them to have played like a real quarterback in Jared Goff. So they've been on a good run. But even with that, this is still a defense that has given up yards to opposing quarterbacks. But they are decidedly better against the pass than they are against the run. This is a defense that can be beat on the ground. And what's probably their biggest strength against the pass, aside from just giving up big plays and giving up yards, they're one of the best teams in the league at getting after the quarterback. And I think that they're going to put a lot of strain on the Dolphins' tackles, particularly if Teron Armstead does not play. If the Dolphins expect to go out there and be one-dimensional, the Dolphins have to be able to run the ball. They don't need to run the ball for 150 yards. But they need to be able to run the ball with some semblance of efficiency and with some semblance of frequency so that they are not completely one-dimensional in this game. Because if they fall behind by 2 scores and they abandon the run game, the Texans will get after Tua. They will hit Tua. Mistakes will happen. And the Dolphins will be in trouble, and this game could get ugly. I think if the Dolphins can run the ball with success, that will open things up for this offense in general. I don't think they need to hit a bunch of big plays. I know everybody wants to see them get back to the offense that they were the last 2 years and have all the big 30, 40-yard plus, passing plays, explosives. I just think the team needs to continue to do what has worked over the last couple months, over the last month and a half of the season since Tua came back, which is move the sticks, score points. They do need to do a better job of turning red zone trips into touchdowns, particularly in the low red zone. And again, I think the missing piece is running the football. So I think if the Dolphins are going to win this game, as much as Tua absolutely needs to have another efficient game, and you got to get Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle involved, all of that needs to be true. But ultimately, if they do not run the ball well in this game, they will lose.
I think that's all there is to say about that. You think it's going to come down to, I guess there's the idea that Mike McDaniel likes to pass the ball, and if you're passing the ball well, maybe you don't need to run it so much. But we talked about that in the last episode about how we don't really buy into that so much. So, Brain, I think it's time. I think it's time for one hot take. So let's hear from the people. We want to know, what is your hashtag one hot take for Dolphins at Texans this Sunday? Let us know in the comments. If you're watching on the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel, let us know in the comments. Post them. We'll share them with the people. If you're watching on the I'm a Miami Dolphin fan Facebook page, thank you for watching. Share your thoughts. What's your hashtag one hot take? Let us know in the comments. I'm going to read some thoughts that we got from the Dolphins Talk Extra Patreon. I'll read some thoughts from the Discord. I'll read some thoughts from Twitter. I'll read some thoughts from Blue Sky. But first, Brain, I'm going to go to you. What is your hashtag one hot take for Dolphins at Texans on Sunday?
Right now, I am in the process of going back to see when was the last time a Miami Dolphin ran for 100 yards in a game. And I'm back at the no, it didn't happen in the Rams game. Did they do it against the Bills? No, they didn't do it against the Bills. I don't know how long it's been. Was it against the Cardinals? No, not quite. But I think this week is going to be the week. I think a Miami Dolphin, likely Devon Achane, is going to run for 100 yards, rush for 100 plus in this game. I'm still going back. I'll let you know when I get there. I don't know when the last time a Miami Dolphin ran for for over 100 yards in a game. Has it even happened this season? Maybe it didn't happen since
Didn't it happen in the Patriots game?
No, it didn't.
Oh.
Maybe in the first Patriots game?
Yeah,
No.
They ran the ball really well that game.
Well, yeah, they've done it. They've run well as a team in several games, and they've been efficient. But I'm still going back. I'm all the way back at like the Titans game right now. No, they didn't do it in the Titans game. I'm getting to the point where we're almost through the entire season, and they haven't done it. I'm going back now. Did they do it against the Bills? No, HN was 4 yards shy against the Bills. I don't think a Dolphin has rushed for over 100 yards in a game all season.
Interesting.
And I'm saying it's gonna happen this week.
Makes it a very hot take, which I appreciate. Thank you for that, Brain. Let's see what we got here in the chat. Andy McLeon says, hashtag lots of Janu. I like that. I like that from Andy McLean. Jordan Murray in the chat says, one hot take, Dolphins win on a walk-off defensive touchdown. I'll take it. I'll take it. Let's go over to the Patreon where Mo Will says, Chop Robinson to get one or more sacks than Zach Sealer on Stroud. So he is saying get one or more sacks than Zach Sealer gets on CJ Stroud. So if Zach Sealer gets 2 sacks, Chop Robinson will get at least 3. That's a hot take. I like it. He's also saying if Sealer gets 0, Chop gets 1, but I like it. It's a good take. On the Discord side of things, we got some good answers here. Dolphins Talk Tom says Dolphins will have a 50-yard plus touchdown pass. Martini Jack says the Dolphins will win and continue their march to a playoff game in Buffalo. Okay. John says Dolphins win 28-10 and the hype train gets kicked into high gear. Jamie V says Ramsey pick 6. Downloads win a close one. I think that maybe was autocorrect and it was supposed to say Dolphins win a close one, but I like the idea of calling them the downloads with a Ramsey pick 6. Dolphin83 says Poyer game sealing interception. And Patrick Mullen says a loss by a soft team on the road, which praises that softness as a virtue without using the word soft and has that as its default long-term identity without having the self-awareness to realize that fact. So there you go. Patrick is predicting a Dolphins loss in Houston. Let's see what we have on the Blue Sky machine. We had a few over here. Somerset Tim says Achane hat trick, rushing, receiving, and passing touchdown. That is a scorching hot take. I love it. Rich says Jonnu Smith 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. Eddie S says Tua has another big game, 300 plus yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. Dan P says Dolphins create 2 turnovers on D, strip sack by Sealer, Kohu interception, score 10 points off of those, and win 27-24. And then we have the keeper. I don't think it's really a take, but I'll read it anyway. We need a total team effort. This would be our biggest win this year. It's going to take all faces to get a win on the road against the Texans. And that leads me to my take, Brain. My hashtag one hot take for Dolphins at Texans on Sunday. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Alec Ingold, rushing touchdown. Switching it up. I should just say Alec Ingold anytime TD, but I'm going specific. I like the specifics of it. Alec Ingold, rushing touchdown. Now watch him catch a pass and run it into the end zone. Wouldn't that be something? All right, it's prediction time. Let us know in the comments, what do you think is going to be the final score on Sunday? Dolphins at Texans. Real quick, before we give you our predictions, a reminder again, smash that like button on this video if you haven't done it. If you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, smash that like button. If you're watching on the I Am a Miami Dolphin Fan Facebook page, shout out to you. Smash that like button. Share it with your friends. Leave us a comment. Leave us a 5-star rating if you subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, everywhere that you get your podcasts. We appreciate that very much. And also Dolphins Talk Extra. Patreon.com/Dolphins Talk, where you can join for as little as $3 a month, get bonus content, have access to our Discord server, and lots more, including the bonus segment that we're going to do right after this, where we're going to go through the Week 15 NFL games and possibly even talk about my experience watching the first 5.5 episodes of The Real Housewives of New Jersey Season 3. Zipping along over there in my effort to get the brain on blue sky. So subscribe, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk, as little as $3 a month. We'd appreciate it very much. We appreciate everybody that has already come on over to Dolphins Talk Extra and subscribed. We love all you guys. All right, it's time, Brain. Let's make some predictions. Dolphins at Texans on Sunday. What do you got?
So I've gone back and forth on this. The one thing I will definitely say, the spread in this game is 47.5, according to what I'm seeing on ESPN right now.
You mean the total?
The total. The total on this game is 47.5. I would not just bet the over on that, but if you can tease that, I would tease that up at least 10 points to get better odds. This is going to be a shootout. I have faith in the Dolphins offense putting up points against this Texans defense, especially in a controlled weather environment. I do not have faith in the Miami Dolphins defense doing a whole lot to slow down the Houston Texans, even though I don't think that the Houston Texans are this offensive juggernaut. I think the Houston Texans are largely a mid football team. They're largely a mid offense. But we've seen this defense struggle against the Jets. We've seen this defense struggle against the Raiders. At times, we've seen them struggle against the Patriots. And against every mobile quarterback that they've played that's not named Drake May, they've gotten absolutely torn to shreds. So, like, I want to hope that they're going to be able to find the recipe to slow them down. But they've tried blitzing. They've tried not blitzing. When they blitz, they can't get home. And then the mobile quarterbacks are getting outside of the pocket. That just kind of feels like what we saw against Kyler Murray. It kind of feels like that's probably what's going to happen against CJ Stroud. But I also think the offense is playing extremely well. And so I believe that this is going to be a shootout that in many ways may come down to who has the ball last. So I'm definitely betting the over. And I'm torn because on one hand, this Dolphins team has done nothing to show me that they can beat a good team. And I think the Texans are a good team. I mean, I think they're mid, but I think they're on the better side of mid. I think they're good. I think they're a definitive playoff team. But on the other hand, the same old Dolphins thing to do is not to lose this football game. The same old Dolphins thing to do is to win this football game and definitively get people back to excited again and get this people really believing so that they either break their hearts the following week against San Francisco, or what would be more same old Dolphins is you win that game and then you lose on the road against Cleveland or the Jets to not make the playoffs. So I don't know. It feels like they should lose this game, but I'm going to say that the Miami Dolphins win this one on a game-winning field goal by Jason Sanders. Miami 33-31.
Wow, the brain going out there and doing the same old Dolphins thing, predicting the Dolphins to go out there and get the big win that gets everybody fired up, just like last year.
That's exactly right. It's like they beat the Cowboys and everybody said, oh, they busted the narrative. They can beat a good team. And then everybody kind of realized, well, wait a minute. Are the Cowboys really that good? And that's what's going to happen because,
well, first of all, the Cowboys weren't that good. And then second of all, the Dolphins went on to go. I mean, that was sort of the last good moment of the season.
Exactly. And that's the thing is that the Dolphins are going to win this game against the Texans, and a bunch of people are going to say that they busted the narrative. They beat a good team. The Texans are a playoff team. Forget the fact that they're only going to be a playoff team because they play in the worst division in football. but that's besides the point. They won on the road against a good team, and they beat them, and now we're for real. And then, the other half of the people are going to say, well, wait a minute. Like, this Texans team just lost to Tennessee a couple weeks ago. They struggled to beat Jacksonville. They're really not that good. And they're probably right. And then they'll be proven right when the Dolphins go out and probably get beat by San Francisco the following week.
Oh, geez. It's almost like there's a roadmap to show you what's going to happen down the road with this Miami Dolphins team. But I'll give you my prediction in this one, Brandon. I'm of a very similar opinion to you. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. I think we're going to see a lot of offense. We're going to see a lot of touchdowns. And ultimately, it's going to come down to the team that has the ball last. And the team that has the ball last in this game is going to be the Houston Texans, with Kaimi Fairbairn hitting, I'm going to call it a 56-yard field goal as time expires to give the Rams, let's call it a 41-38 victory over the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins will fail once again at the third time of asking. Let's see. They fell down to 1-2. And then, it'll be the third time of asking to get back to 500 this year, and it's just they're going to fail again. So give me the Rams in this one, 41-38, but I too am smashing the over hard. So that's it. That's going to wrap us up for this Same Old Dolphin Show episode. We will be back Monday reacting to this game, whatever the result may be. Maybe we'll get lucky and the Dolphins will pull out a victory. And that would be exciting and wonderful for a number of reasons for the Miami Dolphins. And, the narratives will keep going. I mean, especially because, and we're not going to get into it on this episode. Maybe we'll probably will get into it a little bit on the Dolphins Talk Extra show that we're about to do after this. But there are a lot of games on Sunday with big implications if the Dolphins can hold up their end of the bargain in Houston. And there's a lot of opportunity. There is a world where if the Dolphins win in Houston and get some results going their way, that they could be coming into that game against San Francisco, not necessarily sitting pretty, but looking a lot better than they're looking right now. But it all boils down to they got to take care of business in Houston, something that I just don't know that they're going to be able to do. Brand, any parting words for the people before we get out of here?
Honestly, I'm just really excited to talk about the first 5.5 episodes of Real Housewives of New Jersey season 3 with you.
Well then, we better head on over to Patreon. If you haven't done that yet, head on over right now, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk to join for as little as $3 a month. We got more content coming your way. In the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. And as always, go Dolphins!
We're going to talk cooking. We're going to talk ingredients. We're going to talk coming.